Well, he's still rated the most popular premier in Canada, and he will become the elder statesman amongst first ministers next year. Saskatchewan Premier Brad Wall is here for some year-end reflections on his home province. Brad Wall, you sweating that oil price plunge yet? You seeing any impact on next year's budget?
Well, it has our focus and our attention, I'll put it that way. We're a bit lucky here. You know, when the oil price of oil comes down, typically the Canadian dollar moves with it, and there is a salutary effect on our revenues. With each penny that the dollar drops, it's about a $30 million bump to our overall revenue if it's sustained over the year. For every dollar West Texas the oil falls, it's about 20 million. So they're a bit of a balance there, but still there will be a real challenge in the budget. We're working on 7 consecutive balanced budgets in the province. It's a cornerstone to our growth plan, to our plan for the fiscal health of Saskatchewan, and so we need to balance this one. And yeah, that means challenges. We also have to keep building, because whether this oil price slump is a year or 18 months, generally people think it'll move back upwards to somewhere near $80 in the midterm. And so we have to keep building the infrastructure to sustain the growth that is driving so many good things in the province. And so these things are a challenge, and we'll face them head on before the budget this spring.
So clearly, in your view, the pipelines still have to go ahead, at least 1 or 2 of them.
It'd be nice to have Keystone and Energy East moving ahead, and obviously Gateway as well, although in terms of Gateway and Keystone, as you know, Don, there's no Saskatchewan oil proposed for either of those pipelines. Some light sweet crude in Keystone from the Bakken Formation, but on the American side of the border. For us, Energy East, though, means our oil moving to the East Coast, and regardless, even if it's not Saskatchewan oil moving to Tidewater in Canada, we know that bringing down the differential between the Brent price, the world price for crude, and the price that Canadians get for their Western Canadian grades of oil and oil that we have, the difference costs Treasury's money. It can cost Saskatchewan up to $300 million a year, that discount. It could cost our industry in the billions of dollars, depriving them of reinvestment and job-creating expansion. So this is something we need to do. We need to be comfortable with the fact that Canada, while we can do better by the environment, is still more sustainable in terms of its energy development than almost any other oil exporter in the world. I'd say any other country, frankly. That we can be sustainable, that we should be comfortable with being an energy power, and we should move the energy then across the country in a sustainable, safe way to Tidewater and maximize value for Canadians. And in the case of Energy East, stop importing oil from Iraq and Algeria and Venezuela and the United States.
Makes sense. Speaking of other provinces moving goods across the country, you've talked in frustrating terms about procurement between provinces, interprovincial trade, and you say, we're through with being a Boy Scout. If other provinces want to play nasty, we will too. Do you think that's going to be an issue in the year ahead?
I don't know, Don. I still think we'll make progress on the agreement on internal trade. All the premiers have agreed to set up a working group. I'm a co-chair of that working group of trade ministers, and we're going to find some early wins in terms of reducing some barriers to trade. You know, we do certain things in this country by requiring certain dimensions of milk and cartons of milk when we export them between provinces. We can fix some of this low-hanging fruit and move towards the bigger issues of procurement. You know, we have said that if there's going to be a local knowledge preference in certain jurisdictions, and it doesn't appear like it's going away, even in the interim between a challenge under the agreement on internal trade, and even between the successful resolve of that challenge and today, we might have to do something similar to even the playing field. But I still think we'll make progress on trade issues. All the premiers are committed to it. You're going to see that report out, I think, early in 2015, and more progress to report when the premiers meet this summer.
I had to chuckle a little bit when the big debate of your fall party convention was privatizing booze sales, and I thought, well, that's not much of a serious policy change going forward. Is politics really that boring in Saskatchewan?
Well, some would say that's a pretty exciting debate.
Well, if you're buying a lot of booze, it is.
We have other very important debates, and that others who don't think the liquor debate's particularly compelling might find essential, and they don't always happen at convention. We came through a session of the legislature where long-term care is a big issue in our province. As a government, we've significantly increased resources and frontline staff and opened new beds, but there's more that needs to be done just based on not just anecdotal, but what we know to be the case in terms of quality of care. That's very substantial. The economy, we want to keep things moving in a steady pace. We've averaged 3% growth over the last 7 years, and that growth's paid for quality of life. It's allowed us to pay off some debt, keep taxes low, fix some highways. People in Saskatchewan would say not enough yet, but to invest in healthcare and education. So that debate continues. How do we best, and knowing government doesn't create the jobs, but we set the climate, how do we best do that? And I think that's a debate that'll unfold going forward, as will where you buy your favorite bottle of wine.
It is the season, after all. I guess last question, I'd like to get your thoughts on the New Year's resolutions. Maybe a resolution to go federal at some point in time in the next couple of years, Brad Wall? What do you think?
No, I won't be making that resolution. I think I might make well, the resolution would be more of a superstition if it involved the riders, so I better just leave it at none at all this year.
I just want to make sure I understand this. No federal ambitions at this time, no how, no way. Is that right?
I've said on this excellent program many times that I struggle with the one official language.
Yes, you do.
And the answer is no. I'm flattered you'd ask, Don, and I hope you and all your viewers have a great 2015.
Brad Wall, thanks for joining us. Coming up, dueling ambassadors.